Alright, so for the past 2 to 3 weeks, I've been using this, the refurbished 13-inch M1 MacBook Pro, as my daily driver. And while this isn't my full review, that's still probably going to take another couple of months, I wanted to talk about the Apple Certified Refurbished experience and how it's been for me. So first off, what is a refurbished device? Refurbished is basically renewed. So it's a used product that the company then takes and then they'll inspect it for any problems and stuff. If there are problems, they'll fix it. That involves putting in new parts and then they sell it. So renewed, refurbished, these are the same thing. But Apple's refurbished program has a distinct set of characteristics that sets it aside from any other company. So let's talk about it. So let's start off with the packaging. Apple's refurbished packaging is almost the same as their new products, except for one main thing, and that's that rather than having an image of what device you're getting on the front, there's text in that place of what device you're getting, and then on the bottom there's a tiny little Apple Certified Refurbished icon. Now, to some extent, I actually like that a bit more than their regular product packaging, just because it's so much more minimalistic, and I think that in some way it actually fits a bit better with the box. Spacing just looks weird on regular product packages for me. Now the rest of the box and the packaging is the same. You still have all your gorgeous plastic wrap that's so satisfying to pull off. Same stuff on the inside, and for those of you wondering, the same amount of Apple stickers. But the unboxing experience is pretty much the exact same as a new Apple product. Now let's move on to the quality and the using experience, because your number one question with the refurbished or renewed product is probably, is the device really like new? Does it feel like new? And the answer is yes, definitely. In fact, I'd go so far as to say that if I gave you this MacBook Pro fresh out of the box and I didn't tell you that it was refurbished or renewed, you wouldn't think that it was refurbished. In fact, I would almost guarantee that you would think it was a new device. So in day-to-day usage, you won't notice the difference between this and a new MacBook Pro. So in my case, for this MacBook Pro, this is about $500 cheaper than what an actual new M1 MacBook Pro with this spec would be. Now that is because this is a higher end MacBook Pro. If I were looking at a lower end base spec MacBook Air, I would save roughly $200 off the price that it would be new. Now in US dollars, I think that would be roughly $400 US dollars that I would have saved on this, and then you would save about $150 on the base MacBook Air. Now also a quick PSA, Apple is still selling Intel MacBook Airs and Intel Mac Minis on the refurbished website. Do not buy those. Go for the M1 Airs. In fact, in Canada at least, the M1 Airs are cheaper than the Intel one. So if it says M1, then that's the one that you want to buy. Don't buy any Macs on the refurbished site that have Intel in their name. Now nothing is without its downsides, and Apple Certified Refurbished certainly has them. But really one major downside that I would notice is time. And what I mean by that is it takes a while for Apple products to go certified refurbished. So in the case of the M1 MacBook Air and M1 MacBook Pro, those started popping up in the Apple refurbished website, I think around March or April. And these two devices launched last November, which is roughly 4 to 5 months. I think I also saw the M1 iMac make it into the refurbished store around August or September, which is also 4 to 5 months, although that actually sold out very quickly, which is another somewhat downside, or I guess more of a popular downside if you look at it with Apple Certified Refurbished. It's because when good products go on the refurbished site, they sell out very quickly. Now in the case of the new MacBook Pros that just got announced last month, I'd say those will probably go on the refurbished site same time as these M1 MacBook Airs and MacBook Pros did, so probably around next April-ish if I had to make a rough guess. And when it does go into the refurbished store, that leads to another tiny problem, which is that it takes a while for all these devices to actually get in stock in various specs and configurations. So when the MacBook Air and MacBook Pro M1 did make it into the refurbished store, there were not many configurations available for them, but now, since it's been a full year since they released, there are plenty that you can choose from. And a quick note, to get to the Apple refurbished site is one thing. You have to scroll all the way to the bottom and then click on the Apple Store. Under the Apple Store header, there will be refurbished and clearance, and then there's a bunch of product categories. But once you do get into the refurbished site, at least for the Macs, you can't spec them. You can't really configure them. You can, I think, for the iPads. It'll tell you if it's in stock or not. You can just choose between colors, storage, connectivity. But for the Macs, you just have to keep on scrolling through and then keep clicking on each individual page until you see the spec that you want to get. So after all of this, is it worth it? Is it worth getting an Apple certified refurbished product? And I'd say yes, definitely, especially in the Macs. iPads refurbished are good too, although in that case, it takes a long time for iPads to get refurbished. And when they do, they're in very limited configurations and stock and specs. And those sell out even quicker than the Macs. So iPads are a whole different thing. But in the case of the Macs, go for it. It is the closest thing you can get to a new Apple product without actually getting and paying for a new Apple product. Now, the only reason I would recommend not going for an Apple refurbished product is if you need or want the product, a new product right now. So let's take the M1 Pro and M1 Max MacBook Pros, for example. A lot of professionals have been waiting for those to come out for a while, and I wouldn't recommend that they wait, 6 months for those devices to pop up in the refurbished store and then buy them there if they need those devices now. But even in 6 months, there's no guarantee that those devices will make it into the Apple refurbished store. And even if they do, it might not even be available in the configuration that you need. But if you can hold off on getting the latest and greatest, then definitely go and try out Apple Certified Refurbished. And they even get a couple perks. They still have Apple's 15-day return policy, they come with a 1-year warranty, and you can even buy Apple Care on top of them. But especially at the time that this video is going up, if you are looking at getting an M1 MacBook Air or M1 MacBook Pro, check Apple's refurbished store first. And if you have your configuration, the one that you wanted in stock, then you're lucky. Also, at the time that this video is going up, it'll have been about a year since I posted my first video on this channel. So thank you so much to everyone who's been here. And also a special thanks to my friend who's been doing my thumbnails for about the past 7 or so months. But anyways, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. And that's pretty much it for me.